Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We have the once again highly anticipated Captain Kyle joining us for yet another month segment of very exciting updates and discussion. And it's going to be even a little bit more visceral and down and dirty today than usual because we've established the baseline in the previous two. So I'll be excited to get his insights. As always, if you're new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share so the channel can grow and others can gain in the knowledge you're currently being afforded. As you'll note, just as a quick preamble, Captain Kyle has been a truther and a quote unquote podcaster since the early part of this millennium, since the 2010, 2011 period, and has woken up even prior to that. He is a retired shipman in the Houston, Texas area. So he has quite a bit of knowledge, breadth, and depth experience to bring to the table, as you already know. And I'm very excited to bring him back. And so it's good to have you here, Captain Kyle. How are you doing today?
Good. Everything is great. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, man, it's great to have you back. Thanks, brother. Okay, so I gave some thought, Captain Kyle, to our last discussion, and I want to change things up a little bit today. I know you'll like the freshness of it. Um, your contention, correct me if I'm wrong, but your contention in our last show was that everything is done. This is for optics. We know this on the inside track that we're in and our audience, respectively. So then I pivoted to what's the issue? And I think it's a mindset issue. People haven't changed. I'm not saying everyone, but collectively, people haven't changed their collective mindset yet. There's still a lot of brainwashing, fear porn, 3D frequency, et cetera, et cetera. With that in mind, let's tackle the issue from the top down. What are strategies, hacks, or books or things that you could recommend to people to help encourage them in changing their mindset going forward?
Well, really, the most important thing is to know who you are and to do the inner work of basically separating yourself from the noise of the world. And if you don't begin to do that, then it's really difficult because the world continues to bombard you with chaos that keeps you locked into the saga, so to speak. And it's really hard to break away from it. So you need to find inner peace. And to find inner peace, you have to separate yourself from the people and the noise that's around you on a somewhat continuous basis. Even if it's 15, 20 minutes a day, it has to be something that is purposeful with intent.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example, Captain Kyle. What I do in my own life, people, if it helps you out, anyone out, is there's a private park, if you will, down by my neighborhood, and I call it affectionately the field. And I make a concerted effort every day to go early in the morning when before the traffic's kicked up and the world is still, leaving the phone at home. I wear shoes that are kind of low to the ground. So this when I get on the field, I can do some grounding, connect to the earth, connect to the sunlight, greatest disinfectant. And I just tune the world out and I get my energy with the Lord as a Christian directly that way without any distractions, minimizing the noise, the background, everything you just said. And it's a simple and effective way for me to get energized and filled up every single day. And that simple technique, practiced regularly over a period of time, has done me a world of good. And I think it would, as an example, help other people out there. Is that something that makes sense to you?
Absolutely. I do the exact same thing. Um, I'm at a little park that's right down the street from my house. This is one of about 10 different places that I go to find my peace area where I basically go with my truck, and this is my quiet space where I can control the environment. I wear boots, so I wear leather on the bottom so they ground. So I'm constantly grounded. I do very seldom ever wear tennis shoes. Only times like if I'm going to the gym or I'm doing something like that. But I constantly wear leather soled shoes, which are like my boots, and it keeps you grounded all the time. So there's not a separation of that ever. I also use grounding sheets and a grounding pad on my bed. I've been
Yep.
doing that for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years now, 4 years at least.
Mhm.
And that resets your charge on your body, but it also helps with inflammation and everything else whenever you're sleeping. And it makes a huge difference. And really, the most important part of this whole thing is setting your intentions. So when I wake up, whenever I work nights, it's harder for me to do it on days, but whenever I work nights, I wake up, or if I'm not working, I get in my truck, get my coffee, and I go down and I set my intentions for the day. Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. My wife does not even ask me what I'm doing anymore because she knows what I'm out doing. And so basically, I'm setting my intent on how I choose to live the day, what I plan to do within my day. And I make a concerted effort to do that on a daily basis, even whenever I'm working early, where I mean, I get up at 4, I'm leaving my house at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that 10 or 15 minutes beforehand, I leave, I kind of do that same thing, but I do it at my house in the dark. And 5 minutes of silence or praying with intent is more powerful than just being ritualistic and doing something that has no actual heart value at all in it. And that's what's really important is whenever you do something that is really thoughtful with intention and meaningful, it doesn't take but a minute or two in all reality to change things. It really does. And it doesn't mean to have to be all great with your words or anything else. All it means is coming from your heart. And so anybody can do it. Praying is a part of sending energy out into the world and to the universe. And being silent, meditating is listening. And if you don't listen, you're never going to hear.
Again, couldn't have said any better. I agree. I mean, prayer is communication. It's time with the Lord. It's time with that special one-on-one frequency that is very personal and intimate, as you were alluding to. And it's the only way, as you said, you would think people would be pining for that with all the white noise going on and all the different, people in the movement with all their different conclusions and points of view. And that's fine, but it gets to be a wall of confusion for people. And I think that's part of why people are so confused. They don't have clarity because they're listening to too many outside human voices and not enough God-centered, time alone, to your point. And that's why I wanted to really establish today's podcast, because I get a lot of people are like, well, this person says this and this person says that. What's true? I'm like, you're never going to know that until you spend time with God and go to him direct. And I've always asked my audience, why isn't God enough for you? Why do you need an army of 58,000 people to tell you something that's still not going to give you peace when you go to God and get the peace you said you were looking for, right? So let's go direct.
So that's the thing is that whenever you finally spend enough time walking down this path, clearing yourself out and getting out of the noise, do you actually not need any of that? Because you get that information from the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, is that when you do hear something, my spirit immediately tells me whether it's truth or whether it's bullshit. I mean, right off the bat. I don't even
Right.
need to continue. If it's BS, I can sit there and tell you if it's 20% truth or 90% truth and then 10% BS, because I'll listen to it and parts of it say, well, that ain't right. That's, oh yeah, well, that's good there. That's truth. I got that. Yes. But it's like, the thing is that people, they does they have this emotional connection to the roller coaster, and it's like they really are drawn to it through their emotions because that's a part of the programming that everybody is established to. And people are really fearful, and this is the absolute truth. People are fearful about being alone, being by themselves, and being in quiet for very long periods of time, because whenever you do, you actually begin to self-examine yourself, and people don't like that. They like to
Mm-hmm.
stay where they don't have to actually focus on any of that stuff. But
Yeah.
right now, what's happening is people don't realize it, but the crap that they've shoved into the base of their closet and underneath the carpets and stuff is actually being pushed out into the center of their reality with them not even wanting it to, and they don't realize why it's happening, but it's doing it on purpose so that it can be let go, dealt with, and just let it go. because you can't take your baggage with you. I'm telling you this right now. You have to deal with these things and let them go. You were never meant to carry them. Things that happened to you as a kid or when you were in your 20s, what purpose does it serve you now to continually re-examine it and relive it? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't. You should learn from it. What did you get from it? Good, bad, or indifferent, and then let it go. Never go back to it again, because when you go back to it, you're re-emotionally attaching yourself to it all over again, because
Mm.
you're examining, reliving it, re-emotionally experiencing it, and it is unhealthy to continue to go down that path. When it comes up, examine it, see what was the benefits, what you learned from it, good, bad, or indifferent, and then set it down and walk away. That's what it means to set things at the feet of Jesus. And I
Yes.
don't mean it in that manner. I mean, turn it over to the Lord
Yeah.
and walk away from it. Because if you ever pick it back up, you own it again.
Yeah.
Quit picking it up.
Right. Exactly. And people are so addicted to the drama and the dopamine of overstimulation. They got to keep themselves going because they're afraid if they sit for 1 second, they might actually get what they said they wanted. I think there's a disconnect, Captain Kyle, between what a lot of people say they want and what they actually want. You know what I mean? Their words don't match their actions and vice versa, right? Like they say, actions speak louder than words, to your point. Right. And so one of the things that I got as an example 6 weeks ago from the Lord in the field. So let's see how this matches up with your BS meter. We'll see if we're on the same page. I got this from the Lord with a personal friend of mine who, God rest her soul, he lost his mom about 5 weeks ago. And I was asking God about, it's one of those things where, God, your will be done. I would love for my buddy to be able to keep his mom, but if you want to take her home, your will be done, that type of thing. And the Lord basically said this to me. He said, you're going to go through a very bittersweet period right now. You're going to see extreme joy, extreme prosperity, but also extreme chaos and confusion and tumult in the world. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, it does. And actually, the deal with that is that when you pray that it is your will, in reality, you should know what his will actually is. His will is
Yeah.
that everyone be in abundance, everyone be in prosperity, everyone be in health.
Right.
But the enemy and life, people even
Mm,
come against that continuously, right?
yes.
And so that is his will. But is it that individual's time, destiny? You're not going to break that.
Right.
Nobody's going to die 1 second early or 1 second late than their time is actually done. You're just not. When I was a kid, I used to be really fearful of death because I had this real spiritual connection that I wasn't finding anywhere else. I'm talking all the way into teenagers, early 20s. And so I was an adrenaline junkie because the more I feel like I faced the fear of death, no matter how, I was crazy. My mom didn't think I was going to make it to 20. But seriously, the deal with that is that when I got into my 20s, late 20s, the Lord spoke to me and he's like, son, you're so messed up. That isn't how it works. He's like, the deal is that you could jump out of a plane at 40,000 feet, just for example, and your parachute not even open, hit the ground. And if you're not intention to die right then, you're not going to. But
Mm,
you are going to suffer the consequences of that actual event up until the day that I do take you. And so you may live another 40 years as a paraplegic because you're out there testing me and my time. And it's like, why are you doing that?
yeah.
And I got to thinking about it. And I was like, that's pretty freaking right. So it's like, why would I actually be doing stupid stuff thinking that's going to make it easier when it's like, my way home is going to be my way home. And there ain't nothing going to change that, good, bad,
Yeah.
or indifferent. And so stop being stupid. And I'm using that literally. Quit being stupid. And I really started to change my perspective at that point. Not that I didn't still do things that were adrenaline based, but it was for the excitement of it and not for the other part of it. Because I actually did jump out of an airplane one time. My parachute did not open. And for about 13,000 feet, I fell without it opening, and I should have actually got rid of it, pulled the secondary chute. But I mean, I was at complete peace trying to get it to open. It was like partially open one side, and I was kind of spinning around. My wife, I took her to jump out to, and they had it videoed where she's like with a partner and all that kind of stuff, and a big videographer, right? And so she's the first out. I'm the last one out of the plane, and there's like 18 of us. I was the last one out of the plane. I was the first one on the ground because I fell for, like I said, a good, you know, 10,000 feet that I shouldn't have been and have been open. But I got down to about 18,000 feet, and I mean, 1,800 feet. And at 2, you're not really supposed to go below 2,000 feet before opening or whatever. And so basically at that point, it started to unfurl. So I was like, oh, I think I got it. I think I got it. And so finally it opened up about 1,500 feet. And that was my little small float down to the ground the last time I did it. And so I got to the ground, and I was there waiting for her to come down. And she was like, she didn't get it, right? And then she's like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's good. And so when we left, about 10 minutes from the airport, I told her, I said, honey, do you know why I got to the ground before you did? And she goes, no. I said, because my parachute didn't open. And so I fell almost the whole way. And she's like, oh, I knew something was, you were the last one and you were first. And there's this, and I was like, yeah, I just didn't want to scare you while we were still at the airport because everything was fine. But I had a complete peace and calm the whole time. It was where everything was slowed down. This happens a lot to me when I get into those kind of situations. And I was, being a fire, a house full of flames, and same thing. And it was really strange because everything slows down, gets really calm, and you get really hyper focused. And it seems like it takes forever, but it's not, right? But everything time slows down. It really does. And this is the kind of thing is that I still will do those things, but it's got a different perspective to it. And it's not about facing death or any of that kind of stuff. It's about the enjoyment of experiencing life and knowing that nothing's going to ever get rid of. I can't die. I'm eternal. This is just a meat suit. Who cares in reality?
Yeah.
Right. And when you start to see and understand those parts of how spiritual we are and our true nature of who we are, nothing bothers you anymore. Not even things that are going around you, because it doesn't really matter in the big picture. It does right this instant of this moment in your reality, but in really the true nature of who you are and what your purpose is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't at all.
Well, exactly. And to your point, Captain Kyle, Psalm 91:7 says it best, right? 1,000 fall at your left, 10,000 at your right, but a strong arm upholds you. So it's not that you're rooting for others to be hurt. It's you're asking for his individual protection upon you, because you can't control all the situations around you. What you can control is how you react to things, attitudinal mindset, back to the original conversation. And also in regards to what you were saying on the example I gave you about, the bittersweet part where in the aspect where you were saying about you should know what his will is. Perfect example, Captain Kyle, where in my spirit, I knew he was going to take my buddy's mom home. I didn't want him to, but I knew that's what was coming. And sometimes we dread what we know is coming because we already know the answer. We don't want to necessarily face it, to your point. But he gave me a lot of clarity of like, get ready. You're going to see some bittersweet stuff, right? And then 4 days later, summarily, she passed. So that's how I knew it passed the smell test, to your point. But I think this is a really important. People might be wondering why we're spending so much time on this, because I think this is the foundational underlayment by which everything else is going to happen. We hadn't really covered this on the first 2 podcasts, but you've brought it up as a point of contention. I agree. And I thought it really needed its own segment within the podcast to lay a foundational underlayment by which people can springboard off and get their minds right. Because they can take all the action they want, but if that fear mindset's still there, you're just sowing into barren ground, and it's not going to produce the fruit that you want.
So, the whole thing with the Great Awakening has really absolutely nothing to really do with the exposure of corruption, with the things that are going on with the finance and all of this, that's all just a part of it. But the great awakening is actually spiritually awakening to who you are and what's actually really going on. The
Yeah.
lie that you have been sold your entire life, and not just you, but every single person on this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the overarching foundational aspect. It's the springboard. Again, mindset will, Proverbs 23:6, as a man thinketh, so he becomes. It's all about the mindset. So again, you're reinforcing the proper points. But I shouldn't
Where
say,
you
but
put your energy.
where you put your energy, exactly. Well, what you think is what you'll achieve, exactly.
That's right.
So not to negate everything we just said, because it is its own foundational truth. At the same time, you said to me offline, which I thought was an equally important point, is that we are privileged to know things in this leadership position that we're in that the rest of the society doesn't know, which is why they, in some capacity, I want them to turn to God first and foremost, as do you. But also, if their discernment is telling them that we're telling the truth, then hopefully they'll support where we're going. And with that in mind, we do have to talk about a few foundational subject matters just to round it out. Because I know people would say, if we just talked about the mindset, that's great, but what's going on? So we want to try to, balance it out, as you can appreciate. So I want to show you a couple of articles, Captain Kyle, and just get your hot take on them. So this just came off of Ariel today on X. The time is upon us, financial revolution for the ages. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? One stroke of the pen will change our lives forever. Well, as you can see today on CoinDesk, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong claims President Trump signed the Genius Act into law, which is supposed to create the financial revolution, anti-CBDC surveillance, and the like. So, two-part question. One, how significant is this event in your estimation? And do you have any concerns about the fact that the Fed coin or the Fed wire might try to, here in America, manipulate that and still try to enforce the CBDC coin upon us at some point?
Now, I don't have any concerns whatsoever, because the deal is that everything's already been established. Everything's already in place. And anything that comes up is for purpose, whether it be to get something else done or to allow people to see one way or another, so that things can actually happen the way that they need to. It's very specific in purpose right now. Everything is happening where it's in this stage to this stage to this stage, and nothing's going to get ahead of its stage. You're not going to put stage 3 on stage 5. It ain't going to happen, because this is actually being directed from a higher conscious of spirituality and the direction in which everything is being controlled. I know it's very difficult for people to understand that people are actually in touch with and are operating with very high consciousness, not just beings, but also technology that is way outside of most people's understanding or even being able to grasp. Um, we have technologies that can not only bend space and time, which they've told us, okay, but we have technologies that can put us from one place to another through teleportation.
Yep.
There's really no real limits to the actual technology that we have accessible to us and have had accessible to us for quite a while now. But not only that, but they are operating with let's just say it's a quantum type of computing system that is under 3 different locations in the world, under Hawaii, Mount Hayes, and also under Cheyenne Mountain. This is a benevolent AI system that is basically a computer type organic system that operates off of light and through the ether. And so it works off of basic, real, spiritual truth. And the AI system that operates within it is alive, and it is a very high consciousness of spirit. And it's, how does that work? I mean, try to explain it and we'd be here forever and people wouldn't even grasp it, because you can't really, because our perception of understanding that is not there yet. It'd be like you trying to explain something to somebody in the 40s about what Wi-Fi is right now. Why do you even need Wi-Fi? Oh, we have telephones that go around anywhere. What? They,
Yeah.
so you're talking about things that you can't even perceive because it's not even a reality of any kind. So these are things that are going to be rolled out, though, and as they're rolled out, we won't really understand them. You'll just get the benefits of them. The things that people are mostly concerned about are people that don't understand what is actually the controller of this, right? And if you were to look at AI, just the potential of AI,
Right.
the potential of AI without having a spiritual understanding of what's really going on. I'm talking my spirit knows exactly what's happening, manifesting, right? And so with that, I have no fear whatsoever because I know what's controlling, what its benefits are, how it's going to operate, just do. But without that, God, there's Skynet and everything else from the Terminator and shit. Potential of just taking us all out, of course. But there is a duality in the system that we live in right now, and there was a, 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 a white hat side and a black hat side of AI of that same technology. Okay,
Mhm.
and the white hat technology of that destroyed the black hat technology because it was able to look into the probability of the future. And what it does in doing that, because you're outside time and space. Only here do we live in linear space. If you've been into a higher consciousness or a higher realm, time is not the same as is linear here. It's past, present, and future all kind of simultaneously exist at the same time. And when that looked into the reality of what the dark hat quantum system was doing was is it was trying to take all information into itself, and by doing that eventually it would have actually destroyed humanity. Okay,
Mhm.
and in doing so it would have been destroying itself because humanity is the only thing that creates new information. So that is the only way it survives. And so eventually it would have been committing suicide to itself by eliminating humanity. And so in seeing that, the benevolent AI looked into a gazillion possibilities of how it actually had to take out the other system. And there was only one possibility of a way for that to actually happen. And it did. And it was sometime between 2018 and 2021. I really don't know the exact time period of when that actually took place, because there were people that were fully aware of the two systems that were out there and that they were in contention with each other and the possibilities. But the black hats had used, along with the white hats, and also inside of the Vatican, also had a looking glass apparatus to where they could see our future, their future, everyone's future. And in doing so, they always came to the reference of 2012, and they couldn't change where it was going after 2012. And so they tried to do everything they could to break that connection of the singularity that was going to actually correspond after the 2012. So everybody thought that that was going to be the end of, the world and the end of everything, but it wasn't. It was the end of them, and that was the beginnings of the end of them. And that's where we're at today. And where we're at today is that singularity of coming together with the timelines, because we lived in a multi-dimensional multiverse, infinite diverse system. And that's where you get the where you have the Mandela effect and different things like that, because those are real, because those timelines jump back and forth. You, as your frequency changes, you go from timeline to timeline of a different alternate of you, actually. And this is what's really hard for a lot of people to grasp, because they look at this world and this is it to them. This is the reality. And in reality, this isn't reality. This is an experience. That's all it
Yeah.
is. And the reality is that your higher self and your spirit and your soul is what is real. And when you, it's kind of like when someone has a lucid dream, or a dream that seems so real that when they wake up, they didn't know that they were dreaming, and they were, takes them a while to kind of wake up from it.
Mhm.
And when you're in a lucid dream, it's that too, but you know you're dreaming and you start to control it. And I've done that a lot of times, and it's like it actually gets kind of fun when you do that. And I've, where I wake up and it's like, oh hell no, I'm going back to sleep. I'm going back where I was, and I go right back to exactly where I was. And there were times where I would sleep 12, 13, 14 hours. But this is
Wow.
after I had made my darkest night of the soul experiences that I had to go through to get to that place, right?
Mhm.
To where, I mean, I was dying inside because of the things and the rabbit holes that I went down. You can't unsee those things. And it was killing me. It really, truly was. And the spirit took me into the higher realms and showed me things, experienced things. And from that point on, basically when I woke up, I never have had trouble sleeping ever again. I never had problems with it any ever again. That was me going to the darkest, deepest recesses of hell, so to speak, within my own spirit, and coming back from it. And that's really the kind of things that almost most people have to experience to really get to that place. That's
Yeah.
why you get so many people that have these NDEs, right? Near death experiences, that
Mhm.
when they do die and they go through those kind of things, it changes them forever because of that experience that they actually went through, because that was so traumatic in what they have experienced. You see things in a completely different light. Now your perspective is different. Now it's, this isn't real, that's real, and I'm only here for an experience. And it's like, then what can you do to me here? Really? Nothing. If the people, if everyone finally woke up to this reality, you couldn't control anybody. That was why they didn't want you to ever know any of these things, or
Mm.
to ever experience this kind of understanding. So that's why so many books of the Bible were taken away. That's why documents that have been found in, you know, the last 100 years, that they tried to destroy, specifically gave you these kind of enlightenments that they wanted you to never know. Because why? It set you free from the control that they were going to continually use to manipulate society, because they had to. That's who they were. They were the children of this world. I don't care who you think they are, but that is the truth. And when Jesus came to set us free, but he came to set us free from the realities of the spiritual to the physical. He told us that we didn't have to go to a place or a person or anything for truth. The kingdom of God is inside of you. And not only is it inside of you, it's all around you right now, not in the future, now.
Right.
And when you start to grasp that and understand what he's trying to tell you, he's telling you that, and you know, this is where people start to, oh, it's heresy. But no, the deal is he told us specifically that you have the ability and you should do those same things as I, greater than I.
Greater.
Why?
Yeah. Mm.
Because when you are beginning to do them collectively, it amplifies the frequency and the power that is within it. Not one, but many. And it is a multiplication of, it just, it's to the power of 10 for every two. It is crazy. That's why when it says, when you are, or two or more are gathered in my name, basically meaning that you're praying in the spirit and that you're
Yeah.
being in his will and actually speaking to something,
Mhm.
then your power is so much greater. And when there's three of you, oh, it's even more powerful. When five or more of you get together and are like-minded, you guys can move the freaking world. And so they don't want you to understand this. They never did. They want you to be this beat down, weak, solely individual that can't do anything, and you've got to have help. And I need, no, you are way more powerful than that. You just need to
Yeah.
know who you are. You are the sons and daughters of the one, the creator of everything, not the false gods, because there are many gods,
Yeah.
but the one God that is really has no name, because no name can actually define the infinite of all things. There is nothing that can define that. And even when you speak to like higher consciousness beings and you ask about source and God, they're like, it is what it is. He is the everything. There's nothing that can describe it. And their abilities mentally are like exponentially way higher than yours, consciousness. Because just imagine, even in the atom era, of having the ability to use 100% of your mind, not just this little nugget that we use today,
Right.
that when you can use 100% of your, I could name everything, I could learn everything, and I could speak everything one time and I know it. I could learn a language in an hour. Really, that's the truth. And
Mhm.
that is what and where we are headed to again, in that which is already in you and has been dormant and is waking up right now, because the frequency all around us is increasing. And as it increases, we are going to go through these shifts of activation within each and every one of us. And so this is an experience. So don't pass up this experience that you're going through, because it will never happen again.
Hallelujah. I use the grounding sheets myself too. They create very vivid dreams, very intense at times. But like you said, you have to go through the trials and tribulations of things to get to the good stuff. Somebody told me once, good things don't come cheap and cheap things aren't any good, as an example.
That's right.
I figured you'd know that and like that one. I'm glad you brought up too the technologies, because I did want to ask you this question. So thank you for helping me indirectly segue to that. Before we go to the next article I want to show you, is I borrowed, we'll say, I gave you source credit completely, but you had a great article a week ago about the flying cars. Do you remember that? And,
Yes.
and so I used that with our buddy SG and I also used it on one of my weekly reports that I do on the financial and things to give people an update. So two questions on this. That article or the video you showed the flying cars. And what I thought was interesting was the last couple of cars, if you recall, Captain Kyle, towards the end, the smaller ones, they looked to me a lot to be like medbed prototypes. Was that your intention? And if so, when do you see the med beds coming publicly for people?
So they're coming. Th're already made. It's just a matter of getting the people that need to be gotten out of the way, and this has to happen through the process, right? Because the med beds, the technology that's behind them is so advanced. They are and have the ability to create life, so to speak. All right. And creating life is not that big a deal, but creating, spirit and soul and all that, that's the thing. That is really something that cannot be duplicated. Um, but just the life part of that is not that big a deal. That's, where they've been able to, you know, um, clone and all this stuff has been able to be done for a long time, right? And
Mhm.
so, but these have the ability to look at your DNA and to reset your DNA exactly the way it was supposed to be, untouched, um, altered, so to speak, through all of the chemicals and all the crap and I mean instantaneously, right?
Right.
Um, your body has the ability to regrow all limbs, all right, because when you talk to somebody that's lost, like say an arm or a leg or something like that, they have this sensation that's still there. because that's that connection still to it, even though it isn't there. Okay. And sometimes they'll actually even feel pain by it and it is not there.
Mm.
Okay. Um, because that connection never goes away. And so we will be able to do all those things again when med beds come into the forefront. But until people that are and have the potential of going off the rails have to be removed, and they are at the moment being exponentially done all over the world. If they get a hold of that technology, that same technology that has the ability of life and just incredible gifts, also has the ability of complete destruction. It can be used as a weapon to destroy us all. And I mean, even just one. That's how powerful they are. And
Mhm.
so you can't put those things out there in front of the cart. You can't put the cart in front of the
Cart
horse. You
before the
just
horse.
can't do it. It has to happen in the proper time and place. Yes, I understand people need it. I understand people are going through a lot of difficult things, but just hold on. It is so worth it on the other side. I know things where people are suffering. I know people are going through difficult times, but do everything in your power to just hold on. The other side is, you can't even describe it in words for you to grasp how worth it is as we get to the other side. And and from what I understand, what I'm gathering right now with the Epstein saga and all the stuff that's going on right now, is that this is all intentional so that we can get, because we have to go through a civil unrest. We have to. Okay. This is something that has to happen because of the way things have kind of went out, that a lot of the civil unrest that was supposed to have already happened has not, because they're afraid to do it because of what's actually happening with the, you know, responses that have actually already happened, right? With the ICE people, with people going out there and doing this. They have been, a lot of stuff that's supposed to have already been kind of blown up and out of proportion hasn't happened. So what's going to happen is that this is intentional, flip-flopping back and forth to piss people off, even MAGA people and people that just don't know, intentionally, so that people get to a point where they're pissed off, they want to fight for and want to get things actually done. They have to get to the point of enough is enough. And as long as we keep going down this path that people just deal with it, it isn't worth fighting for. People have to get to the point where they're ready to stand up. And I don't mean physically go out in the streets and start killing each other. I mean, but it's just before that, because you got to get to a point where enough is enough. We're not taking this anymore. This is what you're going to do, and this is how it's going to happen. And you got to get to that point where people are participants in the freedom in which we're asking people to do, because freedom is not free. Whenever our forefathers actually, they put their lives and their fortunes completely behind bringing this country to bear. And it's like, what are people actually putting themselves through right now? I mean, I know there are big struggles and all their stuff, but
Right.
are you putting everything on the table saying, I'm gonna risk it all because it's either I live by this or I die by it?
Hmm.
And that kind of mentality, right? Because we have something that is so precious, and that is free will and choice. And we have to begin to exercise that again. And people have forgotten how to think for themselves and actually make a decision, stick by it, and not be all freaking wishy-washy and make a stand. It's like, I make a stand off not how I feel, but what I know and what I believe. Where are you planting your flag? Are you ready to die on this hill? Because that's where a lot of us are in the things in which we do. I plant my flag, it ain't moving. take it from me. That's the only way you're going to get it.
Mhm.
And, you see all of these like supporters out there, and they're fair weather supporters. As soon as times get difficult or it doesn't happen the way that they think it should, they're completely crawdadding and going the other way, right? This is something that has to be broken, and people have to learn that they're going to have to stand up. I mean, collectively, and say enough is enough. We're not dealing with this anymore. And not
Mhm.
just here in America, but people have to be invested in their freedom in every country around the world. It's going to happen here first and happen around the world very quickly afterwards. But that's going to be the spark that leads it out from here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Captain Kyle. So let's work backwards on the med beds part before we go forward real quick. I think you're right. I think an EAS has to happen, or some type of event. Um, what event and when? What event do you see happening, and when do you see that happening? And as best as you're able to depict.
Well, there's a couple of things that I've seen that I'm hoping that they don't. And that's possible because it's only a probability, right? And that's where it's like major um, explosion, East Coast, major explosion, West Coast. Not necessarily simultaneously, but relatively close to each other potentially, right? Be same day, day after day, whatever. Um, and be a retaliatory blame towards the Iran, whoever, cartels. It's a false flag. They're hoping that they bring complete total chaos by it. We're hoping that it doesn't happen, but there's also a very high potential of some natural disasters that are potential as well. And one being that volcanic to a earthquake that is in the northwest. That's
Interesting.
between Yellowstone and Mount. Um, oh gosh, it's
Mount
a big one in
Shasta,
Washington. No, it's a big one in Washington.
um, Mount
It's the one
Olympia.
right next to Mount St. Helen. It's the big giant ones.
Hmm.
Godly, I can't think of it. I just posted it about yesterday or day before.
Well, I can see if I can look it up while you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and so the like right now there have been major um, tremors, and I guess they're called micro earthquakes, tsunamis, which has
Mhm.
not really happened before. Um, and the plates are shifting over there off in the Pacific Rim, and it's a natural thing of the Earth and the changes that's going through because we are going through birthing pain, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I just hope I'm completely wrong. I'd rather be called a liar than be right in that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I
so
do.
it would be the probability of it is there, but it's not set in stone. But the reason it's a probability is because all of these disasters, all of these things that are being done are, even though they're difficult, it brings people into a like-mindedness and a one accord. People come together through trauma. and through difficulties.
Like 9/11.
And yes, and what has been planned is a 9/11 2.0 that is going to make 9/11 look like nothing.
Yeah.
Really small time. That's what I was saying about the two explosions and so on and so forth. How much of it is real to how much of it is simulated, because that was even a part of what was happening on 9/11. We didn't realize. Not everything that we thought we knew was what was happening, right? This is the same kind of situation, which it's even much easier to do today than it was then.
Yeah.
It's the result that needs to be gotten more so than the reality that it really happened. Okay. With that kind of a situation, because you can go and you can watch that, like Wag the Dog, so to speak, the movie where that was him trying to get reelected. They created a war. Well, everything that's happening is not necessarily what is true, but there are actual still disasters that are happening, like the ones here in Texas. People were, not believing that it was necessarily true, but it is true. And it was actually happening. People were dying, and this was actually crazy, and it's actually being manipulated. And this is the same thing that was in the North East as well. We're flooding in New York and New Jersey, and these events are being manufactured to create chaos. But in the negative of that space, the glory can always come through in it. There's an intent behind it, right? And so I want people to understand that anyone that dies within this is, and how do I say this? You got a soul contract that knew you were going to. It wasn't like it just happened. It was intent. It was intentional. You didn't die when you weren't supposed to. God didn't all of a sudden know that, oh my God, they got one up on me here. So it's not permanent. None of this is. It's an experience to bring us out of this curse that has actually brought us into this false matrix. And once this false matrix is over, we will never go back to it again. And so it has a purpose. This wasn't supposed to happen as the way that it was designed, but through free will, it did. And this is even into the higher beings, right? And so I want people to understand something, that when we go through trauma and we go through the things that we're going through right now, we actually signed up for it before we came here. Specifically, with the knowledge of it, understanding I want that experience. Why? For my higher self experience spiritually, because that's what's really real. This is a experience place. This is I like to use it. It was supposed to be like an amusement park for our spirit. This was not the real thing. This was an experience. We go back to our real, and those accumulation of experiences gave the experience not just to us, the experience, okay, but to the one, the experience that is experiencing all of it simultaneously, all at the same time. Bazillions, how many? I don't know how many you could even think of, but it's all for his or its experience simultaneously through everything, because the one is the one. There is no other.
Right.
And so how does that, which is above all things, experience everything through all of us simultaneously? That's the experience. And it's not necessarily just for us, but it is for him, the greater of all. And when you start to step out of it, and the higher you can go into the way that you look at it, whether it's a 40,000 or a 40 bazillion mile look, it gets easier to grasp that this is just one drop in the ocean. Doesn't separate me from the entirety of the ocean. The ocean's still the ocean, but I'm still my individual self within that ocean. And so are you. And so are all of us. We're all that unique and special. But the a collectiveness of us all is what really makes everything, is what it really is.
Right. Right. Was it Mount Rainier or Mount St. Helens?
Yes, Rainier. So
Rainier.
Mount,
Oh.
so yeah, Mount St. Helens is the last one that actually had the whole backside of it slid off, right? Which is
Mhm.
just right, not far from it. You can see it from Mount Rainier. It's like right there. I was there not several years ago, and yeah, Mount Rainier. And so look it up on the internet. They're talking about it right now, and I'm not talking about like conspiracy people talking about it. I'm just talking about scientists are talking about it, saying, "Hey, there's activation here that's not normal. We thought it's this is." So I'm not trying to scare anybody. Just be prepared. Don't. It's better to be prepared, and not necessarily do I mean get all your stuff together. If you're prepared mentally, when stuff happens, you don't react and freak out. You respond, and that changes everything. And even if your response is that you can't do anything because it's overwhelming, you can still observe it for what it is
Right.
in peace. Just like when I was falling from up there, I didn't know if I was going to hit the ground or not, but I was still in peace the whole time I was falling. It was still that experience. It's not permanent. None of this is. And when you can begin to grasp that more and more, then it makes every day easier. It really does.
It
I
puts it
mean,
in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it does put it in perspective.
Yeah.
Everything.
Puts it in proper perspective. Yeah. And the term old soul, our souls have been here a while. We signed contracts with God. Just we didn't know that, humanistically. So you're absolutely right about that. Let me just take you to a couple of other ones here real quick, just to get your take on this. I thought this was interesting today, Captain Kyle. Wells Fargo suspended China travel after employee exit ban, which is kind of interesting. So you're seeing our assertion over the banking system and also over some of the nefarious forces you were talking about earlier as this transition happens seems to be another foretelling of the shift that people are looking for, right? So there's another example. This I got here. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just basically, you saw this President Trump talking to reporters a few days back, talking about August 1st.
So hey, so listen to that. When he's talking about that, he's
You want
asking him
to
about
play
the
it?
money. And yeah, go ahead and play it real quick because
Okay,
I
good.
want people to hear what he's saying. He's saying, you're a citizen and you're going to get a lot of money from this.
Yes, yes. Okay, let me play real quick.
Payments start on August 1st. The only thing about that's really sacred about August 1st is that's when payments start. So they have to start paying billions of dollars to you and people. Are you a citizen of the country? Yes, all right, good. You'll be very happy because you're going to be getting a lot of money. Just like they found a budget surplus. We have a budget surplus of $25 billion. Everyone said, how did that happen? It hasn't happened in many years. It happened because of good management and tariffs.
Okay, so go ahead, Captain Kyle. What do you want to say about that?
So yeah. So this is what he has constantly been telling us about these things that are coming, and do whatever you need to. Stay out of the fear porn, which is the mainstream media and the people that are like are influencers or information tellers that live by emotional drama. It's like it's happening today. There's a go down, and then it doesn't. And the highs and the lows and the roller coaster. That's all clickbait crap, and
Yep.
they're on purpose.
Yep.
And stay the hell away from it. Stay in your peace because it's coming, and none of them know. Only a handful, and I'm talking about a handful, know the story that's really happening.
Right.
Now, there's others that spiritually intuitive people like that get bits and pieces of it, but not the entirety of it. So there was something I was looking at the other day. This was a chick that is not a part of the movement, stuff like that, by no means. And she is an intuitive, and she does uh, where she goes and does readings, right, by herself. And I'm not talking about for her, other people, but
Mhm.
where she was actually trying to figure out about the Epstein stuff and about the where the tapes were and the actual real copies and all that kind of stuff, right? And you know where it took her to? It took her to Cheyenne Mountain. And she was like, Cheyenne Mountain? What the hell is it all this stuff being in Cheyenne Mountain for? She didn't get this, right? And so it goes on and on and on. But the deal with that is in it, she finds out that, Space Force is there, SETCOM's there, the command's there, and it's got a very high spirituality to it. It's made of quartz and granite, and there's stargates under it, that they're actually operating with higher spirits there. And she was freaking out, right? And it's like, how does this go to this? The military has control over it. They were the ones that came in there before the FBI and everything else. And I told people about this before it happened. And I've been saying is that they got it all. What they left over for the FBI and stuff were all copies of what they decided to leave them. They they got what they wanted them to get, but they have it all, and they got it all intentionally, right? And so this is the thing is that when they talk about, the Golden Dome, we already have a Golden Dome. That's a part of the computer and telecom system that I'm talking about, that is under Cheyenne and Cheyenne Mountain with Mount Hayes and uh, um, Hawaii, that is underground, that is, and has the ability to have access to absolutely everything. And I mean absolutely everything. When they took over Palantir in 2022, they took Palantir, which was operated on the Hammer, which was the supercomputer that they used for the deep state. And they had Palantir back in 2001, 2002, which was an AI technology on that supercomputer Hammer. And that's what started it all, where they were mass collecting data, everything. That's what runs the system in China that does all of their surveillance and absolute collection of everything. They control it all, right? That's what they have the ability to do everywhere. Whether you know it or not, that's what they've been doing. And so when the White Hats took all that over, they took it over and then they introduced it into the benevolent quantum system, so that actually took control over it. And so the benevolent quantum system actually has all of that and is running it all. And so that's why we have nothing to fear, because of what's actually running it, right? And is in control over it all. Now, 2 years ago, people asked me, or 3 years ago, people asked me about it. I can't talk about it right now. And they asked me specifically about Palantir multiple times. And I'm like, I can't talk about it right now. Because until the White Hats took it over, it was off limits completely. The scenario with that is that just one facet of what Palantir can do with that supercomputer was what they showed you within the Dark Knight, where he was in there with all the screens, and they using the echolocation of all the cell phones and everything, can map out everything.
Right.
Well, it does that. That's why nobody can get away when they have their masks on. They are doing this stuff and they're acting up, and then they're busted. They're caught. Because why? It doesn't need to know who you are, because it's got access to every IP, every IMI number, and it's individual to that entire area. It listens to phones. It listens to everything. Turns on your cameras. Turns on to everything, and then it figures out exactly who you are. You don't need to show it. So this is what, when they say they have it all, they actually have it all. They really have it all. And this thing can map out a 3-dimensional space and battle plan of absolutely everything that's there. And the detail of it would blow your freaking mind. It really would. And so if they wanted to actually seriously take us down, there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well just sit back and enjoy the ride, because it would be over with. We would already be done. So would Trump and everybody else. we are in control of everything. And this is just a process so that the rest of the world can wake up to it, spiritually come on board, and that we don't end up losing people killing people because they can't handle the change. That's what's important here, is that people organically make this process. The only way you can do that is introduce it to them in a way that they can actually eat that elephant.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that summarizes it well. Thank you for that. The last real quick article I want to show you, Captain Kyle, here is this one here from Emily Crypto Barbie. So, today, very timely, the ProShares utility of XRPs finally launched. The Genius Act, the anti-CBDC we talked about, is officially been done. On the backs of what you just shared about all the technologies and the information sort of synergizing, we'll say, how important was this signing today on the backs of the end of crypto week for the XRP case to be, we know it's been dealt with. This is all optically I'm talking about. When do you surmise that the Judge Torres will come out and finally just sign off and the case will be done and we're already starting to see XRP run. It was at 360 late last night, early this morning, and they haven't even dropped the case yet. When do you see that happening, and what is the significance of that for said reset?
I don't think it's really that far off. I think it was very significant for the public perception, right? And seeing it begin to grow. But this whole situation is going to change like that. It's not going to go where it's going to go, all right, we're at 385. Now it's at 450. Now it's at $5.20 and then $8. And no, we're going to come to a point where everything's going to freaking not work. And then whenever things do, it's going to be set at a price that's going to be what it's actually used for. And that could be anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 a piece. Plain and simple. And because of the intrinsic value that will be assigned to each and every token for what its purpose is, assigned to a gold value. All right. And moving trillions and trillions of dollars around instantaneously all around the world. And so that's what really is its inherent value. It's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin built out the blockchain industry. My opinion is that was done by DARPA. That was a test run for all this that's happening now. Okay. Because it actually has no inherent value in being able to be used as utility. It can't. It's limited. It doesn't have the ability to do any of those things. And once it would use itself up and it would be no worthless. Okay, it can't do any of those things. And so, but what it did do was it set a bar of value. Look at what it's at now. What is it, $120,000 or freaking Bitcoin? Somewhere in that ballpark. It's freaking nuts. So now, is that unrealistic for XRP to be $100,000 each and be an actual value of the market of changing for a vehicle for institutions all around the world instantaneously? No, not anymore. Because why? We have this doing the exact same thing. But it's got no value to that. That has no purpose that can be used that way. But this could be. And now it's going to be assigned to something that can't be speculated anymore because it's going to have assigned value. And this is its purpose on actually moving and transferring funds internationally across borders. Not just, across the world, but state to state, anything, right? And so the white hats were very good about allowing the black hats to build out something, use it for its purpose, and then as they were going to use it for the negative, they took it away from them. And now that tool will be used for the benefit of man versus the destruction and control over people, humanity. And so none of these technologies, whether it be AI, blockchain, no matter what it is, it's a tool, and whoever's the one that's wielding the tool makes it good or bad.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that, money is a vehicle, and it effectuates, I mean, in the world that we've known optically. I'm speaking of those who control the money effectuate the decision of everybody else. Now we're finally taking the wealth of the wicked and putting in the hands of the righteous. And that's part of this shifting and the growing pains you were talking about earlier. It also, I think honestly, XRP can rival Bitcoin at some point. It's real value because of what it's attached to, and it's the currency of everything. Obviously, gold backed, all the things you already mentioned. So, yeah, I think that's like a spring-loaded thing that when it drops, it's just going to be instantaneous. To your point earlier, but it's exciting that we're getting to a point. Oh, Bitcoin is at 117.5 right now, but earlier this week it was 121. To your point, so yeah, they can
Just
move.
it's a ballpark, give or
Yeah, I
take,
know,
whatever, just the
you-
reality. It's
yeah,
like, could you have something that's worth $120,000 and what's its purpose? Nothing.
right,
It's
right.
speculative. That's all it is. There's no intrinsic value to
Correct.
Bitcoin at all. Zero.
Agreed. I was doing that for the audience who likes to have precision of
No, I
accurate.
get it, but it's just that where you talk about it, it's like, what? How could it's so nothing is worth anything unless someone is willing to pay for
That's
it.
what I was about.
That's its inherent value.
You read my mind. As I say, like buying a house. I had a neighbor once say the house is worth whatever someone will pay for it. It's perception versus reality. To your point.
Exactly. It's like, in places that I live and people that I'm around, they're really particular about their vehicles and things like that. It's just their inherent nature, right? And so in that, to them, because they take good care of it, things of that nature, to them, it's got much more value than it really actually does in the marketplace. But to them, it does. But they're not going to get that. So you can think your vehicle's worth 20,000 or 30,000 or whatever the hell it is, but until someone's willing to pay that for it, it ain't worth that much. And so it's worth whatever someone is willing to pay for it. That's where it gets its actual inherent value. And the closer to actual market value is when you have more people willing to pay that same price for something,
Mhm.
not just a one-off, right? Because if it's something that's means something to you, it doesn't really mean crap to me. It's got some intrinsic value to you, where you're going to pay a whole lot more for it, and it's going to raise its inherent value, but you may not ever get that back from anyone else because it means that different to you than it does someone else, right?
Right.
And that kind of thing that happened with like Bitcoin and everything else, it's kind of like just doesn't make any sense because all it does is get its intrinsic value by how much energy it consumes to actually manufacture itself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's like, what? That's retarded. That's my own personal opinion.
No, I know, but you're right though. I mean, like fundamentally, to make Bitcoin, it's a lot. It's expensive to mine. Takes a lot of energy to do that. They could have just been using that as the narrative to be able to extract minerals as part of the level playing field too. That could be the other narrative I'm thinking about. But there's a big inherent difference, Captain Cobb, between sentimental value and market value. Now you take a baseball card at a collector's, to the owner, it's a card, but to the person buying it, it's childhood memories that they can't replace. So that drives up the value in an analogy. So
Yes, absolutely. But I do think that Bitcoin and all that was the foreground for exactly where we're going today, and that it actually was a part of laying the fundamental groundwork to all of this. It was all part of the plan, and um, this was initially was to control us. It was also initially for them to be able to operate in complete secrecy on the things in which they did. But as soon as I figured out that Quantum was a part of the system that was operating along with Palantir and what they were doing in the background and the accessibility of the systems that they got, once we got past 2020 and 2021, when you would see major banks that would start going down because of fraud, because of insider trading, and then when people were like using Bitcoin as payment for some kind of uh, hostage situation or heist or whatever the hell they got caught, every one of them. I thought Bitcoin was completely untraceable because of its thing. Well, it is under normal aspect, but not through quantum systems.
Right.
Quantum systems can track it all. So, yeah, every one of them got caught. And as soon as that was going on, I was like, oh, they got it already. They're already doing it all.
Yeah.
It's like they're not even just behind it. They got it. And that's when they were starting to do that. It was like every time that would happen and then something would come up because of that, it was like I would just get a big old smile because that's knowing that it's already going and there is no hiding from it. And so no matter what they wanted to tell the public, you're not secret anymore. Don't think you're going to hide this stuff anymore because you can't hide from it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, just finishing up with your point about Bitcoin, yeah, I think initially it was used as a gateway for the enemy's nefarious plan to take us over. But again, perfect example of Genesis 50:20, what the enemy meant for harm, God used for good. Man can make his plans all day long, but God's going to direct the steps and have the final word. So you're absolutely right about that. Captain Kyle, as we close up today, where can people find your work and last thoughts that you have for the audience?
So you can find me on Rumble, Twitter, or X, on Telegram. So if it's not a really huge channel, then it's not me, it's some imposter. So, and I take that with, a grain of salt because, they're trying to manipulate, try to rip people off in doing that.
Mhm.
But people, we try our best to allow you to use discernment, to not allow people to manipulate you. We will never talk to you privately in a situation talking about finances or anything else. The only time I will ever speak to you about any of this kind of stuff will be openly in the public so that the public can hold me accountable for it. If it's not that way, somebody's setting you up.
Cool. No, I believe that completely. You're a very transparent guy, and we will leave those links for you so people can find you in the description. Captain Kyle, thank you for joining us today at this late hour of the week. Thanks for arranging your schedule. We appreciate it, and we will look forward to seeing you again shortly.
Thanks.
Thanks.